The stars had never seemed so hostile until the day they arrived. Captain Daehan stood on the observation deck of Orbital Station Unity, watching the alien ships emerge from the darkness of space. They were beautiful in a terrible way. Their hulls gleaming with metals he had never seen before, their engines pulsing with colors that hurt to look at directly. 3 massive vessels hung in the void like predators circling prey. "Sir, they're hailing us," Lieutenant Sumin said from her communication station. Her voice was steady, but Daehan could hear the tension beneath it. Every person on the station knew this moment would define humanity's future. "Put them through," Daehan ordered. The screen flickered to life, revealing a creature that seemed to be made of sharp angles and cold light. Its eyes, if they were eyes, glowed with a pale blue radiance. When it spoke, the translation software struggled to keep up, creating a slight delay that made the conversation feel dreamlike. "I am Ambassador Velrosh of the Krathuri Empire, speaking for the Galactic Assembly. Your species has been observed. Your development has been noted. The time has come for Earth to join galactic civilization." The ambassador's tone was flat, carrying no warmth or curiosity. It sounded like someone reading a grocery list. Daehan felt a chill run down his spine. "We welcome contact with other species. Humanity has long hoped for this day." Velrosh made a gesture that might have been dismissive. "Hope is irrelevant. What matters are the terms of your integration. The Galactic Assembly has existed for 12,000 of your years. 47 species call it home. All contribute to the greater good. Now you must contribute as well." "What kind of contribution are you talking about?" Daehan asked, though something in his gut already knew the answer would not be pleasant. The ambassador transmitted a document that appeared on every screen in the command center. Daehan read it once, then read it again, certain he must have misunderstood. But the words remained the same. 30% of all Earth's resources. Every year. Forever. Complete access to human technology and research. The right for Assembly forces to establish military bases on Earth and all human colonies. Restrictions on human military development to be enforced by Assembly observers. The list went on and on. "This is not integration," Daehan said quietly. "This is conquest." Velrosh's expression did not change. "It is the way of the galaxy. Young species contribute. Elder species guide. This system has brought peace and prosperity for millennia. You should be grateful for the opportunity to join such an illustrious civilization. And if we refuse..." Now something flickered in the ambassador's glowing eyes. Amusement, perhaps, or pity. No one refuses. Some species accept immediately. Others require time to understand their position in the natural order. Economic isolation follows refusal. Trade blockades. Eventually, all see reason. The Assembly is patient. "How long do we have to consider your offer?" Daehan asked. 30 of your days. Then we return for your answer. Choose wisely, Captain. The Assembly's generosity has limits. The transmission ended. The alien ships lingered in orbit for another hour, a silent reminder of their power, then vanished into faster-than-light travel, leaving humanity alone with an impossible choice. Within an hour, Daehan was standing in the emergency session of the United Earth Council. President Hana sat at the head of the table, her face carved from stone. Around her, the leaders of Earth's nations argued in a dozen languages, their voices rising in panic and anger. Admiral Taman, commander of the Solar Defense Fleet, stood beside a holographic display showing the alien ships. "Their technology is centuries ahead of ours," he said bluntly. "Our best warships would be like wooden sailboats attacking a modern carrier group. If they decide to enforce their demands with force, we cannot stop them." Diplomatic Officer Youngmi leaned forward. "Perhaps we can negotiate, reduce the tribute percentage, maintain some autonomy. Surely there is room for compromise." "Did you?" Read the document? President Hana's voice cut through the noise like a blade. The room fell silent. There is no room for negotiation. Every clause states non-negotiable. They are not interested in compromise. They want submission. Then, what did we do? Someone asked. Admiral Taman smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. We have been preparing for this possibility for a very long time. Since we first detected signs of intelligent life beyond our solar system, we knew this moment might come. We hoped for friends, but we planned for tyrants. He touched the holographic display, and the image changed. Hidden shipyards appeared, scattered through the asteroid belt and the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. Weapons research facilities buried beneath the ice of Europa. Production centers on Mars that official records claimed were mining operations. For 107 years, we have been building in secret, not just military ships, but a military philosophy. We studied every scrap of data we could gather from alien signals and ancient probes. We developed weapons specifically designed to fight enemies with superior technology. We created strategies for asymmetric warfare. We did this quietly, in the dark spaces between the stars, where no one was watching. President Hana stood. The question before us is simple. Do we kneel or do we stand? Do we become servants in someone else's empire, or do we remain free? The vote was unanimous. When Ambassador Velroche returned in 30 days, expecting Earth's surrender, he would receive humanity's answer. But it would not be delivered in words. It would be delivered in warships across the solar system. Hidden bases received a single coded transmission. Protocol Nightfall was activated. In the darkness between the planets, massive shapes began to stir. Weapon systems that had slept for decades came online. Crews who had trained their entire lives for a war they prayed would never come reported to their stations. Humanity had made its choice. The galaxy was about to learn what humans did when someone demanded they surrender their freedom. The alarm woke Ji-woo from a dream about Earth. She had not seen her home planet in 3 years, not since she transferred to the Ceres shipyard to oversee construction of the Dreadnought fleet. The hidden facility stretched for kilometers beneath the surface of the dwarf planet, a cathedral of steel and secrets. All personnel to stations. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Protocol Nightfall is active. Ji-woo was running before her mind fully processed the words. 3 years of preparation. 3 years of building ships that were never supposed to see combat. 3 years of hope that humanity's answer to the assembly would be enough to avoid war. That hope was dying. The construction bay was chaos controlled by rigid training. Thousands of workers swarmed over the SNV Indomitable, humanity's first true battleship. She was ugly by any aesthetic standard, all sharp angles and exposed weapons, built for function rather than beauty. But to Ji-woo, she was perfect. Status report. Ji-woo barked as she reached the command center. Main engines at 70% and climbing. Weapon systems coming online. Crew reporting to stations. We can launch in 4 hours. We have 2, Ji-woo said. The enforcement fleet is already entering the solar system. Get me Chief Engineer Kyung-soo. The man appeared on her screen moments later, his face streaked with grease. The port fusion reactor is still being calibrated. If we push too hard, we push anyway. If that reactor fails in combat, we die. If we're not in combat because we're still docked when the aliens arrive, we die anyway. I'll take the risk. Kyung-soo grinned despite the situation. Understood. Give me 90 minutes. Across the solar system, similar scenes played out. On Ganymede, Admiral Taman boarded his flagship, the SNV Defiant. On Luna, fighter squadrons received their activation codes. On Mars, weapons platforms that had masqueraded as mining equipment for decades rotated toward space. Their targeting systems coming alive. Lieutenant Sumin sat in the cockpit of her fighter, hands steady on the controls despite the adrenaline singing through her veins. Around her, 20 other pilots completed their pre-flight checks. They were the Wraith Squadron, trained in tactics the Galactic Assembly had never encountered because no civilized species would consider them acceptable. "Listen up," Commander Haiyan Wu's voice crackled through the comm. "We've received intelligence on the enforcement fleet. 12 cruisers, Krathari design. They have energy shields, plasma weapons, and centuries of combat experience. They think we're primitives. They think this is intimidation, not war. What's our objective?" Someone asked. "Survive, adapt, win. In that order. Remember your training. We're faster and smaller. We use that. We swarm. We strike from unexpected angles. We don't fight fair because fair means dead. Questions?" Silence. "Good. Launch in 30 minutes. Make humanity proud." Sumin closed her eyes and thought of her younger brother on Earth. He was only 12. If humanity lost this fight, he would grow up as a subject of the Assembly. His life and future dictated by aliens who saw humans as resources to be exploited. That could not happen. She opened her eyes and began the launch sequence on Ceres. Ji Woo watched the indomitable slide free of its construction cradle for the first time. The massive ship moved with surprising grace, its engines burning bright against the darkness of space. Through her window, she could see other ships emerging from hidden bays, scattered across the asteroid belt. Destroyers, frigates, carriers. The fleet humanity had built in secret was revealing itself at last. All ships. "This is Admiral Temin. You know what we face. You know what we fight for." The enforcement fleet expects to find a frightened species begging for mercy. Instead, they will find warriors defending their home. This is our sky, our solar system, our freedom, and we will not surrender any of it. All ships proceed to Earth orbit. Let's show these invaders what humanity means. The fleet moved as one, a river of steel flowing toward the inner solar system. Far ahead, the enforcement fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Earth. Commander Velrosh stood on the bridge of his flagship, confident and calm. He had done this 43 times before, visiting new species to collect their tribute. It was always the same. The primitives postured and complained, but when they saw the assembly ships, they understood their place in the galaxy. "Scan for human military assets," he ordered. The tactical officer's response was slow in coming. "Sir, I'm detecting multiple contacts." "No, wait. Dozens of contacts. They're coming from all over the system." Velrosh frowned. "Impossible. Our intelligence showed minimal military capability." "Sir, I'm reading 74 ships inbound." "Correction, 81. "No, more are appearing. They were hidden somehow, using passive stealth systems." 70 ships? Velrosh's confidence wavered. "They cannot crew 70 warships. They must be automated, meant to frighten us." But as the human fleet emerged into visual range, Velrosh saw running lights on every vessel. Hangar bays opening. Fighter craft launching in swarms. These ships were not empty threats. They were fully operational. "Incoming transmission," the communications officer said. Admiral Taman's face appeared on the screen. He looked old, with gray hair and lines around his eyes. But those eyes held no fear. "This is Admiral Taman of the Solar Defense Fleet. You have entered human space without permission. You have made demands we will not accept. You have threatened our people and our freedom. This is your only warning. Leave now, or face the consequences." Velrosh nearly laughed. "You dare threaten the Galactic Assembly? You are children playing with toys. We have fought wars across 1,000 worlds. Your pitiful fleet is fire, Taemin said quietly. The transmission ended, and the Battle of Luna began. Ji-woo watched from the Indomitable as humanity's weapons spoke for the first time. Railguns firing metal slugs at impossible speeds. Missile swarms that could think and adapt. Lasers powered by nuclear reactions. The Indomitable shuddered as its main cannon discharged, sending a depleted uranium round downrange at a significant fraction of light speed. The round hit an alien cruiser's shields. The shields held, but the sheer kinetic energy made the entire ship ring like a bell. Again, Ji-woo ordered. Keep firing. All around her, humanity's fleet opened fire. And in that moment, the galaxy changed forever. The alien shields shimmered under the impact of human weapons, rippling patterns of energy that spoke of technology humanity did not fully understand. But understanding was not necessary. Breaking them was. Captain Daehyun gripped the arms of his command chair as the Resolute fired another salvo. The heavy cruiser had been his home for 6 months of training, running drills in the dark spaces beyond Neptune. Now that training became reality. Around him, his crew worked with mechanical precision, calling out target coordinates and damage reports. Enemy Cruiser 3 is rotating to present fresh shields, his tactical officer reported. Their shields regenerate faster than we expected. Then we hit them faster than they can regenerate, Daehyun said. Weapons, I want continuous fire on that target. Engineering, divert more power to the railguns. Let the life support run on minimum. Sir, if we lose this fight, atmosphere won't matter. Do it. The Resolute shuddered as it poured fire into the alien vessel. Other human ships joined the attack, concentrating their weapons on single targets. It was an ancient tactic, as old as warfare itself. Overwhelming force at the decisive point. The alien cruiser's shields flickered, failed, and then the human rounds began tearing into its hull. Atmosphere vented into space in glittering streams. The cruiser tried to turn away, but 3 human destroyers cut off its escape, their missiles slamming into its engines. Target destroyed, the tactical officer reported. Good. Next target. Keep moving. Never stay still long enough for them to target us effectively. High above the battle, Su-min led her squadron in a diving attack on an alien cruiser. Her fighter was small, barely larger than an atmospheric aircraft, but it was fast and nearly impossible to hit. The aliens were trying, though. Energy beams lanced through space around her, close enough that her instruments screamed warnings about radiation exposure. Wraith 2, break left. 3 and 4, follow me. We're going for the shield generators. The scientist Minna had briefed them before the battle. Alien shields had a weakness. They were generated by nodes along the hull, and those nodes created harmonic patterns. If you knew the pattern, you could predict where the shields would be weakest. Minna's team had spent years studying fragments of ancient alien technology, building theoretical models of how the shields worked. Now, Su-min would learn if those theories were correct. Her fighter screamed through the gap between 2 human destroyers, using them as cover from the alien point defense systems. The alien cruiser loomed ahead, massive and terrible. She could see the shield generators now, glowing protrusions along its spine, targeting the 3rd node from the bow. Everyone lock on. Fire on my mark. 3, 2, 1. Mark. 20 missiles launched as one. They were not large, not sophisticated by galactic standards. But they were fast, and they were many. The alien defenses tried to intercept them, but fighting a swarm was like fighting water. Some missiles died. Others got through. The shield generator exploded in a flash of blue light. Direct hit. Their shields are flickering in that sector. Wraith 7 through 12. Exploit that gap. Hit them with everything you have. The battle raged for hours. Commander Velrosh watched his fleet die with growing disbelief. This was not how battles were supposed to go. The assembly had technology. They had experience. They had history on their side. Young species were supposed to be overwhelmed by the mere presence of the assembly fleet, not fight back with such savage effectiveness. "Pull back to defensive formation," he ordered. "We need to regroup." But the humans did not allow regrouping. They pressed their attack from every angle, giving no time to recover or adapt. It was barbaric. It was effective. Another cruiser fell silent, its power core breached. Then another. Velrosh's fleet had started with 12 ships. Now only 4 remained operational. "Sir, we have to retreat," his second officer said. "We're losing." Velrosh wanted to argue, wanted to deny, but the tactical display did not lie. His fleet was shattered. "All ships, emergency jump. Return to assembly space." The surviving alien vessels vanished into faster-than-light travel, leaving their dead behind. On the Resolute, a cheer went up from the crew. Daehyun allowed himself a small smile, but his mind was already moving ahead. Damage report. How many ships did we lose? 7 destroyers. 2 frigates. The carrier Valiant is heavily damaged but operational. Estimated casualties at 2,300. 2,000 humans dead. But Earth was saved. For now, Admiral Tamin's face appeared on every human ship. He looked tired, aged by the battle, but his voice was strong. "Today we proved that humanity will not kneel. We faced the Galactic Assembly's might and we prevailed. But do not celebrate too much. This was one fleet, one battle. The Assembly is vast. They have hundreds of ships, thousands of warriors. Today we made them angry. Now they will come in force. Return to base. Repair your ships. Rest while you can. The real war is just beginning." On Earth, President Hana addressed the world. The battle had been broadcast live, every human watching as their species fought for survival. Now, they waited to hear what came next. "People of Earth, today we won our freedom. But freedom is not free. The Galactic Assembly will not accept this defeat. They will come again in greater numbers. We face a war unlike any in human history. Not a war between nations, but a war for our very right to exist as a free species. I am ordering total mobilization. Every shipyard, every factory, every resource we have will be dedicated to our defense. Volunteers are needed for the fleet. Scientists and engineers are needed for weapons research. Everyone has a role to play. This is our moment. This is our test. And we will not fail." Across the globe, millions volunteered. Factory workers became shipbuilders. Students became soldiers. The elderly, who could not fight, offered their knowledge and experience. Humanity transformed itself from a peaceful civilization into a war machine, driven by the simple understanding that defeat meant the end of everything they valued. In the hidden research facility beneath the Swiss Alps, Minna worked with barely a pause for sleep. The battle data was invaluable. She had seen her theories work in practice, seen human weapons crack alien shields. But she had also seen how close the battle had been. If the aliens had been better coordinated, more experienced in fighting a peer opponent, the outcome might have been different. "We need better weapons," she told her team. "Faster missiles, stronger armor, and we need that quantum disruptor operational. If we can prevent their ships from jumping to faster than light, we can trap them in normal space where our numbers matter." "Manna, that technology is theoretical. We don't even know if it's possible. A week ago, they thought beating an assembly fleet was impossible. We'll make it possible. We have to." Far across the galaxy, the news of the defeat reached the Galactic Assembly. For the first time in 300 years, an enforcement fleet had been destroyed. Ambassador Velrosh stood before the High Council, stripped of his command, humiliated. "These humans are more dangerous than we believed," High Counselor Rathner said. "They were supposed to be primitives. Instead, they fought with coordination and tactics we have never encountered. How is this possible?" "They have been preparing," Velrosh admitted. "They knew we would come. They built their fleet in secret, training their warriors in the dark where we could not observe. And their technology, while crude, is effective. Then we will crush them with overwhelming force. Assemble the Grand Armada, 300 ships. We will burn their worlds to ash and make an example that will echo across the galaxy for 1,000 generations. No species defies the assembly." The order went out. Across assembly space, warships began gathering for the largest military operation in centuries. They would descend on Earth like a storm, and when they were done, humanity would exist only as a warning to others who might consider rebellion. But humanity was not waiting passively for destruction. They were building, learning, preparing, and they had something the assembly had forgotten in its millennia of easy conquests. They had the desperate courage of a species fighting for survival. The Grand Armada assembled at Carthox Prime, the assembly's main military staging ground. 300 warships from a dozen species filled the space around the fortress station. It was the largest fleet gathered in living memory, commanded by Fleet Master Korthalan, a Krathari warrior who had spent 2 centuries crushing rebellions and enforcing assembly will. Korthalan stood before his captains in the strategy chamber. The humans defeated one enforcement fleet through surprise and numbers. They will not surprise us again. We know their tactics now. We know their weapons. And we have overwhelming superiority. This will not be a battle. It will be an execution. But 6 light years away, Admiral Taman stood before a very different gathering. President Ha had given him complete authority over humanity's military forces. Now he outlined a strategy that made his junior officers go pale. "We cannot win a direct battle against 300 ships," Taman said bluntly. "Even with our new construction, we can field perhaps 140 warships. The math is simple. We lose, so we will not fight that battle. Then what do? Captain Dehayan asked. "We make them fight our battle on our terms. The Grand Armada requires supplies, fuel, ammunition, food for their crews. They have a supply line stretching across half the galaxy. That supply line is their weakness. We strike it. We cut it. We make them come to Earth hungry, tired, and depleted." Engineer Ji Woo pulled up a holographic map of assembly space. "Our scouts have identified 3 major supply depots. Carthox Prime is the main one, but there are secondary facilities at Velner Station and the core system. If we destroy those, we cannot destroy them," a voice interrupted. Young Mi, the diplomatic officer, had joined the meeting. "If we attack deep into assembly territory, we prove we are the aggressors. We lose any moral high ground." Tamin shook his head. "They demanded tribute. They sent fleets to enforce it. They are gathering an armada to destroy us. Moral high ground is a luxury for those not facing extinction. We do what we must." The meeting fell silent. Then Dehayan spoke. "I'll lead the strike on Carthox Prime." "No," Taman said. "You're too valuable. I'll lead it myself." "Sir, if we lose you, if we lose Earth, it doesn't matter. This mission requires someone the crews trust absolutely. That's me. Captain Haijin will command the Earth defense. Dan, you take the strike on Velner Station. Choose your best ships and pilots." Dehayan nodded slowly. "Yes, sir." The preparations took 2 weeks. In that time, Ji Woo supervised the completion of 20 new destroyers, built using modular construction techniques that would have been impossible for the Assembly's craft-focused shipbuilding culture. Human ships were ugly, mass-produced, and designed to be repaired quickly in the field. They lacked the elegance of alien vessels. But elegance did not win wars. Sue Dashman, promoted to squadron commander after the Battle of Luna, briefed her expanded unit. Wraith Squadron had grown from 20 fighters to 80, incorporating pilots from every nation on Earth. "We're going deep into enemy territory," she told them. "No support. No reinforcements. We hit the depot, destroy as much as we can, and run. Some of us won't make it back. But we're buying time for Earth. We're making the Armada weaker before they ever reach our home." Questions? A young pilot raised her hand. "Commander, is it true Admiral Taman is coming with us?" "It's true. He'll be on the flagship Defiant, which means we have to keep that ship alive at all costs." "Understood?" "Yes, ma'am." The strike fleet departed from Mars orbital yards under cover of a communications blackout. 50 ships, including Taman's Defiant and Dahian's Resolute, jumped into faster-than-light travel using captured alien navigation data. They would emerge in enemy territory, far from Earth, far from safety. 3 days later, they dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Carthox Prime system. The supply depot was enormous, a sprawling complex of storage facilities and docking bays orbiting a gas giant. Hundreds of cargo vessels moved between the depot and the waiting warships of the Grand Armada. It was a target-rich environment. "All ships, this is Admiral Taman. We have one objective: maximum damage in minimum time. Hit the fuel storage first, then ammunition. Avoid civilian vessels if possible, but the mission comes first. We leave in 30 minutes whether we're done or not. Execute." The human fleet swept into the system like a pack of wolves. The depot's defenders, used to peaceful logistics operations, scrambled to respond. But by the time they launched their fighters, the humans were already among the storage facilities. Tay-Men watched as his ships tore into the depot. Railgun rounds punched through fuel tanks, triggering massive explosions. Missiles destroyed ammunition storage, creating secondary blasts that rippled through the complex. It was not elegant. It was devastation. "Sir, enemy reinforcements incoming. 2 cruisers from the main fleet. How long until they arrive?" 12 minutes. "We're leaving in 10. All ships, final attack runs, then prepare for jump." Sue Min led her fighters on one last pass, targeting the main control center. Her missiles struck true, and the center exploded in a fireball that could be seen from orbit. As her fighter climbed away from the depot, she looked back at the destruction. Fuel burned in space, creating vast clouds of fire. Debris from destroyed storage facilities spiraled away in all directions. The depot that had taken decades to build was ruined in half an hour. The human fleet jumped to FTL just as the enemy cruisers arrived. Across the assembly territories, similar attacks occurred. Dahian's strike on Velner Station succeeded, though at greater cost. His fleet lost 8 ships in the fighting, including the destroyer Brave, which sacrificed itself to cover the retreat. In the core system, a 3rd human task force destroyed a convoy carrying supplies meant to sustain the Armada for months. Fleet Master Corthellan received the news with cold fury. His carefully planned campaign was already disrupted. The humans were not behaving like primitives waiting to be conquered. They were fighting like cornered predators, striking at weak points, refusing to meet his strength with their weakness. "Accelerate the schedule," he ordered. "We leave for Earth in 3 days, supplies or no supplies. This ends now." The Grand Armada departed early, its ships undersupplied and its commander angry. They jumped toward human space in waves, the largest military force the Assembly had ever deployed against a single species. On Earth, sensors detected their approach. President Hanna activated the final phase of defense preparations. Every able-bodied person who could hold a weapon was mobilized. The orbital fortresses that ringed Earth powered up their weapons. The fleet, reinforced by the returning strike groups and fresh construction, took position between the approaching armada and humanity's homeworld. Captain Hyjin, a veteran who had fought in the Battle of Luna, commanded the defense from the orbital fortress bastion. She looked at the tactical display showing the approaching enemy fleet and felt no fear, only determination. "This is our home," she said to her crew. "They want to take it. They want to make us servants. But we are human. We bow to no one. When they come, we show them what that means." The Grand Armada emerged from FDL at the edge of the solar system. Kothalan surveyed the human defenses and smiled coldly. "They have perhaps 150 ships. We have 300. This is over. All ships, advance. Destroy everything." The Armada began its approach to Earth. And humanity, prepared to fight the battle that would decide its future. Admiral Taemin, returned from the Carthox Prime raid, took command of the fleet. He looked at the advancing enemy and remembered something his grandfather had told him decades ago. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. He activated the fleet-wide channel. "All ships, this is Taemin. That armada out there thinks we're beaten. They think this is already over. They're wrong. We have weapons they haven't seen. We have tactics they can't predict. And we have something they can never have. We're defending our home, our families, our freedom. That makes us stronger than any armada. Prepare for combat. Show them what humans are made of." Across the fleet, crews cheered. Weapons charged. Engines burned hot. The Battle of Earth was about to begin. The Battle of Earth lasted 14 days. On the first day, the Grand Armada swept forward in a wall of ships 300 strong. Fleetmaster Korthalan expected the human fleet to break and scatter. Instead, they formed a defensive sphere around Earth and its orbital fortresses, fighting with a desperation that bordered on madness. Captain Daehyun commanded a section of the line aboard the Resolute. His ship was already scarred from the raids deep in assembly territory, but it fought on. Around him, human vessels traded fire with alien cruisers, neither side giving ground. The space between Earth and the Moon became a graveyard of shattered ships and burning debris. "Shields at 40%, his tactical officer reported. "Multiple hull breaches on decks 7 through 9. Seal them and keep firing. We hold this line, but holding costs blood." The destroyer Hawk exploded under concentrated fire from 2 alien cruisers. The frigate Storm lost power and drifted, helpless, before an enemy missile finished it. Ship after ship fell silent, and the line began to bend. On the 4th day, Su Min led a desperate fighter strike against the Armada's flagship. Her squadron had been reduced to 30 craft, but they dove through the enemy point defenses like they were diving through fire itself, because that was exactly what they were doing. Her wingman, a pilot named Ballram, took a direct hit and vanished in a flash of light. Su Min screamed his name but did not stop. Could not stop. They reached the flagship and fired everything they had. Missiles, guns, 1 pilot, her fighter. 2 damaged to return, rammed directly into the flagship's bridge tower. The explosion was visible from Earth. Fleet Master Kothalan survived, protected by emergency bulkheads, but his command center was destroyed. Worse, the humans had shown they were willing to sacrifice themselves to hurt the enemy. It was a level of devotion the assembly had not seen in centuries. On the 7th day, the line finally broke. The Armada pushed through the outer defenses and began targeting the orbital fortresses. Captain Hyjin fought from Bastion, her fortress pouring fire into the approaching enemy ships, even as its armor melted under their weapons. When the fortress's power core was breached, she ordered evacuation. She was the last to leave, staying at her post until the structure around her began to fail. Admiral Taemin pulled his fleet back to a tighter defensive sphere. The humans were losing. Everyone could see it. The Armada still had over 200 operational ships. Humanity had fewer than 80. But on the 8th day, everything changed. A single quotes S research team had been working without rest since the battle began, refining the quantum disruptor in a hidden facility on the dark side of the moon. The weapon was theoretical, dangerous, and might not work at all. But humanity had run out of conventional options. Admiral, this is Minna. The disruptor is ready. Taemin did not hesitate. Deploy it. The quantum disruptor was not a weapon in the traditional sense. It did not destroy ships. Instead, it created a field of disrupted space-time that prevented faster-than-light travel. Any ship caught in the field was trapped in normal space, unable to jump away, unable to retreat. Minna activated the device. From humanity's perspective, nothing visible happened. But across the alien fleet, FTL drives went dark. Engineers scrambled to understand what had happened. Some thought it was a malfunction. Others realized the truth. The humans had trapped them. All enemy ships have lost FTL capability. The tactical officer reported, his voice filled with disbelief. Tae-Min allowed himself a grim smile. Now we have them. All ships, new orders. We are no longer defending. We are hunting. Break into Wolfpack formations and tear them apart. The battle's nature changed in an instant. The Grand Armada, designed for set-piece battles and overwhelming force, found itself fighting a guerrilla war against an enemy that struck from unexpected angles and vanished before a counterattack could be organized. Human ships, smaller and faster, used hit-and-run tactics that the Armada had no doctrine to counter. On the 10th day, Engineer Ji Woo brought the first of the emergency construction vessels online. These ships were built in record time, little more than engines and guns held together with optimism. But they added numbers when numbers mattered most. She stood in the construction bay on Mars, watching her crews launch ship after ship, and felt something like hope. The Armada began to fracture. Some species, seeing the battle turn against them, quietly began negotiating with humanity through back channels. The Velna Collective, forced into the assembly service decades ago, sent a message to President Hana offering to withdraw if humanity promised not to pursue them. Other client species watched and waited. On the 12th day, Captain Dae-Hyan led a coordinated strike on Fleet Master Corthalan's crippled flagship. The massive vessel tried to defend itself, but its shields were weak and its systems damaged from days of constant combat. Daehan's task force pounded it with everything they had. Corthalan stood on his bridge, surrounded by fire and dying crew members, and finally understood. The humans were not going to lose. They could not be intimidated, could not be broken. They would fight until their last ship was destroyed or until the Armada was defeated. There was no middle ground. Signal retreat, he ordered. Sir, we cannot retreat. The FTL drives are offline. Then signal surrender. The word was alien to the Assembly's vocabulary, but it was the only option left. The Armada's remaining ships, 163 out of the original 300, ceased fire and transmitted their surrender. On Earth, billions of people watched in stunned silence. Then the cheering began. Cities erupted in celebration. Strangers embraced in the streets. Humanity had won, but President Hana knew the war was not over. Admiral, accept their surrender but keep our fleet at combat readiness. We need to negotiate from a position of strength. The negotiations took months. Humanity demanded complete dissolution of the tribute system, recognition of their sovereignty, and reparations for the war the Assembly had started. The Assembly, humiliated and weakened, had little choice but to agree. 5 client species had already declared independence during the fighting. More were considering it. Diplomatic Officer Young Mi led the human delegation at the reformed Galactic Assembly. She stood before representatives of dozens of species and spoke with calm authority. For 12,000 years, your assembly has operated on a simple principle: the strong dominate the weak. You believed this was the natural order. You were wrong. Humanity rejects this order. We propose something new: a true federation of equals, where disputes are resolved through diplomacy and law, not threats and tribute, where every species has a voice, regardless of their military power. Some of you will resist this change, but others, those who have suffered under the old system, will embrace it. The proposal passed by a narrow margin. The Galactic Assembly was reformed. The tribute system ended. Dozens of species gained their freedom for the first time in generations. Ambassador Velrosh, stripped of his rank and assigned to diplomatic service as punishment for his failures, approached young me after the vote. You have changed everything. The galaxy will never be the same. That was the idea, young me replied. Peace through mutual respect, not through fear. The war officially ended 1 year after the Battle of Earth. Captain Dehayan retired from active service, accepting a position teaching military history and tactics at the new Interspecies Military Academy. Officers from a dozen species came to learn from the humans who had defeated the greatest armada the galaxy had ever seen. Engineer Ji Wu led joint human-alien teams, developing new technologies for peaceful purposes. The modular construction techniques humanity had pioneered during the war were adapted for civilian use, building stations and habitats across dozen systems. Su Min joined the Galactic Peacekeeping Force, a multinational fleet dedicated to ensuring no species could impose tribute on another. She flew patrols with pilots from worlds that had once been humanity's enemies, now partners in maintaining the new order. Scientist Minna established the Interspecies Research Institute, where humans and aliens worked together on projects that benefited everyone. The quantum disruptor technology was classified, hidden away, but the principles behind it led to breakthroughs in peaceful FTL travel and communication. Admiral Taemin remained in service for 5 more years, overseeing the transition from wartime fleet to peacetime defense force. On his final day of service, President Hana awarded him humanity's highest honor. You saved our species, she said simply. I just did my job, Taemin replied. Every human who fought, who built ships, who refused to surrender, they saved us. I was just one part of it. 2 years after the war's end, humanity launched its first true colony ship, the New Dawn, bound for a star system 60 light-years from Earth. The ship carried 10,000 colonists, human and alien, living together, seeking to build something new on a distant world. President Hana, in her final address before leaving office, watched the New Dawn depart and felt the weight of history. When the Galactic Assembly first came to Earth, they demanded we kneel. They demanded tribute. They demanded our submission. We refused, not because we sought conflict, but because freedom is not negotiable. We fought for the right to determine our own future. And we won. Now we enter this new era not as conquerors, but as partners.